You're watching NTV's Grow. An ethanol plant opens back up, but not without ruffling some feathers. It does create jobs, but there's a little controversy there. We'll bring you the story. And ag education seeping into the irrigation industry. And Russia banning ag imports from the U.S. You might think this has a big impact on the markets. Well, when you really look at the numbers, it's a different story. It's all today on the show. Thank you so much for joining us here on NTV's Grow. We're going to start with that ethanol plant. It was once idle, now opening back up, creating a lot of new jobs. That might sound good. However, one of the nation's biggest co-ops is left a little frustrated. Grow co-host Steve White has been following this saga and brings you the latest.
We're going to have yet another market for our farmers and their grain.
Adding value for Nebraska farmers. The Aurora Cooperative CEO spoke to NTV 2 years ago, hopeful the co-op's neighbors at Aventine Renewable Energy would resume ethanol production, which is now happening.
Our current production levels were grinding 35,000 to 40,000 bushels of corn per day.
Aventine operates 2 plants in the Aurora West complex. The CEO is referring to the smaller, which restarted a month ago.
We have 24 employees, newly hired employees at this plant that are working there. The second impact would be that there's a lot of repair and maintenance are also employed by local companies.
And the Aventine CEO says they're buying corn, ultimately local corn. But the larger plant at the site is powered by an alternative.
We are still using sugar.
Using sugar, not corn, doesn't sit well with the farmers who own Aurora Cooperative. The co-op is one of the largest in the nation. Aventine went through bankruptcy, and then the plants went idle when corn prices soared. Co-op leaders say they want both plants to be fully functional using their corn. The co-op sued Aventine 2 years ago and still hope to settle. The co-op issued a statement echoing the CEO's words to NTV 2 years ago.
Hold them accountable.
Saying, quote, "We will continue to hold Aventine accountable to the contractual agreements agreed to by the parties," end quote. Aventine says the larger plant is using sugar just to get restarted and will again rely on Nebraska farmers.
That plant will be migrating over to corn sometime in October.
From the looks of it so far, farmers could be seeing record crops come this fall harvest time. The latest Farm Futures survey shows a bin buster potential is pretty high. Corn production could hit 14.3 billion bushels, nearly 3% more than last year. Soybeans also on track to break records with a 3.8 billion bushel projected crop. However, there's still uncertainty depending on drying conditions and the weather heading into the fall. As far as current crop conditions here in Nebraska, let's take a look from the USDA report. Cooler temperatures and limited moisture demands of non-irrigated crops. However, another week of only scattered rainfall stressed dryland crops and pasture. USDA report shows wheat harvest near completion. Only northern panhandle fields are remaining. Dry conditions also supported hay harvest. Corn rated 52% good. Silking was 94%, equal to average. Soybean conditions rated 54 good. Setting pods was 68%, well ahead of last year. Also in that report, we'll take a look at the livestock end of things. When it comes to pasture and range conditions, they rated 31% fair and 45 good. Stock water supplies sit at 87% adequate. When it comes to farm and ranch production expenses, there was not a whole lot of difference between 2012 and 2013. In a look at this report, the Agriculture Department says 2013 expenditures totaled $87.6 billion, down from $89 billion. That's a drop of less than 2%. The Plains region includes the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Now, when it comes to boosting production, here's a really fun story about a cotton farmer down in Texas, a young farmer. He found a way to boost production. With the help of his grandfather, 11-year-old Britton Pointer doubled his cotton acres by curving the rows. He also got some help from Mother Nature.
It's harder than you think it is. I mean, there's quite a bit of, there's like 12 acres there that I didn't have last year. It's almost more than just about twice as much as I had my first year. We haven't had near this much rain. I bet you we've had 13, 12 inches of rain. Last year we had 1.
The 6th grader has also doubled his workload. He tends to his crops when he gets home from school. Business coalitions are teaming up now with farmers to fight what is known as the water rule. The coalition is going to fight against the EPA on certain things that they think is really an overreach. Home builders, bankers, golf courses are joining with the Farm Bureau, the cattlemen, and other ag groups. They're concerned about the waters of the U.S. rule. Those on the coalition say it would expand the reach of the EPA to regulate ditches, puddles, and ponds.
You know, I think local government is much more appropriate to regulate irrigation ditches than the EPA. The EPA is out of touch, and they have this big promotion or agenda now that they call climate justice. And so I think it invites bad policies and certainly way too much power within the federal government.
Farm Bureau announced the expansion of this coalition. Meanwhile, the EPA says it's a myth that this would add new regulations on farms. The agency says it would preserve exemptions for agriculture, but Farm Bureau says that's not what the fine print says. Well, many ranchers, they decide to burn the prairie, especially during springtime. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the best option. There's new research out from Kansas State University.
It's a way to solve a lot of problems with no apparent adverse repercussions on the rancher.
Ranchers have been burning pastures in late spring for decades, but this new research finds burning in fall or winter has the same benefits and more.
This is the longest and most comprehensive study on seasonal burning that's ever been done. What we found is that you don't have a difference in grass production. Grass production is the same from year to year, whether it's burned in the fall, winter, or spring.
Burning at other times of the year could reduce air pollution and reduce the grass's susceptibility to drought. The study was conducted over 20 years. Burning fields is an important nutritional source for grazing cattle. A debilitating livestock virus is forcing the Colorado Department of Agriculture to create several areas of quarantine, 69 locations actually. Some horses and 1 cow tested positive for vesicular stomatitis, known as VS. Over the past 2 weeks, the office have been receiving about 10 reports daily of animals showing symptoms. The disease causes painful blister-like lesions and is spread by insects from animal to animal through open sores and saliva. You can find the list of locations affected on our website, nebraska.tv. A lot of county fairs have been happening, especially the last few weeks. Now, there was one where at the county fair, lives were touched and they even reached out to help a kid that's battling for his life.
I think it's really cool how we just did it for him, because I always remember him because I wear his picture on my harness.
Abby Schultz and a friend lead their brother's bucket calf during a special auction at the Gosper County Fair. It's an impromptu fundraiser for Garrett Scholes, who was diagnosed July 9th with leukemia and is in Omaha seeking treatment. Garrett raised the calf but couldn't be here for the fair himself. That reminder of Garrett was evident throughout the fairgrounds, which isn't going unnoticed by his family.
So it's just very humbling that you have this much community support and friends and family and just people in this county that gathered around us and kind of held us in close and get us through the fair.
A local ag producer also donated a grill for the auction, which raised nearly $15,000 for the family. Educating consumers and kids about agriculture in a very interactive and amazing way. That's what's going to be happening at a new exhibit at the Nebraska State Fair. We get a peek after the break. Plus, of course, we have your grow forecast. Don't go anywhere.